When was the first shul in Chutz La'aretz ever built in Jewish history, outside of Israel? The answer is very simple. It's in the Torah. That's what the Mishkan is. It's an opportunity to build something that serves as a vehicle to relate to HaKadosh Baruch Hu until they get back to Eretz Yisrael as a people, now from families up to a nation, to build a Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim. It's a way station. It's a vehicle. It's meant to have an element of portability. All these Parshiot, Shmot, and through here to Vayikra and continuing in Bamidbar, Dvarim, it's all about the centrality of the Mishkan and the idea that the people, after 7 days of watching the inauguration of Aaron Cohen and his sons, come to Moshe Rabbeinu, and it describes that they were hoping that each of those days of inauguration, they would see fire come down from Shemayim, but the Jewish people didn't see it happen. It describes they came to Moshe. They felt bad. They're almost ashamed. They said to Moshe Rabbeinu, all of the effort that we expend, we were waiting for this, and all this time has transpired, and it's just in the end materials that are built to a building. There's nothing special to it. And Moshe gives them a bracha. May the divine presence dwell in the work of your hands. We need that bracha. It's not enough to just have the building. We need the bracha, the Shekhinah should dwell within. And then Moshe Rabbeinu quotes from this chapter of Tehillim. Tehillim wasn't written yet, but the Tefillah LaMoshe, the 90th chapter of Tehillim, inscribed in Tehillim, which the Gemara Bava Batra tells us actually was authored initially by Moshe Rabbeinu, with the end of that chapter, V'hinoam Hashem Elokeinu aleinu, may the pleasantness of Hashem our God be upon us. May he establish the work of our hands. May the work of our hands he establish. And that's the bracha he gave them. And the idea that a person and a people are so desirous of having a place to meet with the Kadosh Baruch Hu is actually already found the first time the Jewish people ever sing a song of praise to Hashem. The central song of Shirat Hayam is not just about celebrating getting out of Mitzrayim and about belief. It's actually expressing a desire on the part of the people to have a way to meet with HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a building. Zekeli ve'anavehu. We have the drasha ve'anavehu means milashon noi, of beauty. That's the Gemara, Masechet Shabbat, and elsewhere. But the pshat, the Targum Onkelos renders is Zekeli ve'anavehu. I want to build, this is my God, I want to build him an abode, a residence, a place where I can meet with him. That's about building the mikdash. It uses the expression, Dein Elohi va'avnei le mikdash. I want to build him a mikdash. When we understand this, we can have a better understanding of what it means that the people wanted this Mishkan, that it had a lot of effort and energy, and yes, donations that brought it to, and gifts that brought it to be into fruition. But in the Song at the Sea, the people are asking not just to arrive in Eretz Yisrael, but you guided them in your strength to your holy abode. Further to you'll bring them and implant them on the mountain of your heritage. And then you created a repository for your dwelling place. That's what you enacted, Hashem. And what do we say? Mikdash Hashem, Hashem, your hands, so to speak, have already prepared the Mikdash. And then the cry, Hashem Yimloch Levad, may God reign forever and ever. But just like with the bread, the people have to say, Hamotzi Lechem Min Haaretz, and they thank God for bringing the bread out of the ground, even though it means they have to do something with their own hands. It's the same thing here. At the first, the people think there's going to be a mikdash, going to come from Shemayim somehow, miraculously. No, they find out you have to give, you have to have input, you have to be engaged, you have to care, and you have to daven. And when all of those things are true, okay, so then you can have a place where the Shekhinah dwells. And I spoke about it this Shabbos in Shul as the Dvar Torah. Drasha I already gave last week. I give drashas every Thursday night on Zoom at 8:30 p.m. And that's recorded, and it goes out before Shabbos and after Shabbos. But this is one of the little Divrei Torah I gave on Shabbos in Shul. To drive home this point, I want to share it with everyone in the congregation. Every day when we daven Pesukei de Zimra, we say an opening bracha and a closing bracha. Baruch Shamar at the outset and Yishtabach at the end. And in the middle, we have all sorts of chapters and verses related to music, to singing. But when the opening bracha happens, we actually say, Uvishirei David Avdecha, with those songs of David, your servant, are we going to praise you and exalt you, etc., and king you, all of those expressions. And then the beginning of Pesukei de Zimra, understandably, Hodul Hashem Kiruv Yishmo, which is the song that was sung by David and the people when they brought the Aron Kodesh up from Kiryat Ye'arim, which you can drive on Kvish Echad between Tel Aviv and Yerushalayim, and go up that road. That's almost certainly the road that they used, the easiest path to get up to Yerushalayim. They went to Yerushalayim, to the holy city, and to the Ir David. They put the Aron Kodesh. They sang Hodoshim Kirish Mo Divamin Lilotav. I spoke about it in the Torah Tefillah notes on the Parsha this week. Not for now. The rest of Psukim Zimra seems to make so much sense. It's taken from Sefer Tehillim, Ashrei and the Halalukas, etc. But then we come to a mystery. Why are there 3 other sections added to the end of Psukim Zimra that are not from Sefer Tehillim and that on the face of it are not necessarily songs? They're brachas and then songs, but they're not from David. What are they doing there? We have Vayevarach David, that's David speaking, but it's not Sefer Tehillim. It's from the book known as Divrei Hayam, the last speech that David HaMelech ever gave. Number 2, from the book of Nehemiah, Atu Hashem levadecha, you Hashem alone made the heavens and the earth, etc. And then we have the Shirat Hayam. Every single day we recite those 3. Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, Zichrono Livracha, pointed out that those 3 elements are added because each of them is about the same theme, community. That which we had in all the Psukim Zimra to that point is an individual in the relationship with Hashem, very general. When we come to this section, by Varach David, is it Moshe, David HaMelech rather telling the people, you need to care about community and you need to be in it together to build the Beit HaMikdash in Yerushalayim, which David was not privileged to do in his own lifetime, but he knew his son Shlomo was going to do that. He was promised. Number 2, in the days of Nehemiah, the Levium lined up on the steps of the newly built Beit HaMikdash in the newly built tentative walls around Yerushalayim, reminding the people to fight mightily against BDS, against the forces that wanted, that Sarei Yehuda, that wanted to ruin the plan, that wanted to tear down the walls of Yerushalayim, and to be strong and together and to remind them we have a history and a patrimony and we're in it together. And then what do we read? Every day, Shirat Hayam. And what's that about? Again, the building of the Beit HaMikdash, building up of Eretz Yisrael, Tivim Tita Emo, as I mentioned, but also it reminds us wherever we are always and forever on that journey back to Eretz Yisrael. And in a week of Yom HaAtzmaut, something to think about for each of us, to be sure, but more than that, about the idea of having a temporary vehicle, a place that is a beautification of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and a place that serves as a vehicle to encounter HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the whole idea of building a Mishkan, or a Mikdash, or a Mikdash Me'at, which is also known as a Beit Knesset. The Sfat Emet very beautifully says that when the fire finally came down from Shemayim, the Torah describes that when the fire came down and consumed everything that was on the Mizbeach, so the people saw and they sang, and then they fell down on their faces. As Sfat Emet, what did they sing? The song that they knew. They sang Shirat Hayam at that moment because they realized everything we had hoped and dreamed for. Zekeli ve'anavehu. This is my God, and I will build him a Beit HaMikdash. Now it came to be, and now we see that the Shekhinah is sure there's divine presence. And what did they do? They fell down, and presumably at that exact moment, they said the words Hashem Yimloch L'olam Va'ed, that may God reign forever and ever. I hope and pray that everyone in our shul will feel a sense of community, a sense of connection, and a sense that we are encountering none other than HaKadosh Baruch Hu when we gather in our Beit Knesset in order to daven, in order to learn, in order to be together in our Beit Knesset, in our place of assembly, not just as Jews, but as Jews in a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, where we meet HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the community, is in the center of the community in the Beit Knesset.